welcome to our other episode of Focus on This Week. This is your weekly program that brings you different current and dominating topics with the purpose of influencing positive change in Tanzania, in Africa, and in the world at large. Leading your program, as always, I am Caroline Maleo, your host, and of course we'll be together from the beginning till the end of our today's program. And on this episode, we'll discuss about the 64 years of Tanzania mainland's independence, where we came from, where are we, and where are we headed. As we know, this year, on December 9th, 2025, we marked a major milestone in the history of our nation, 64 years later, where the now Tanzania mainland attained its full independence on the 9th of December 1961. This is more than a date in the calendar. It is a history of courage, unity, patriotism, and a vision of the founding father of the nation and the early leaders of the country, Tanzania. The journey towards independence did not begin overnight. It was the result of decades of political struggle and mass mobilization. In the midst of British colonial rule, and the earlier ones, the Germany colonial rule, and then later on the British trusteeship under the League of the Nation, which at that time, which now is called the United Nations, emerged nationalist movements that began to demand the freedom of the country. One of the most remarkable turning points occurred on the 7th of July in 1954, when at the Aggrey Strait in Dar es Salaam, when 17 nationalist leaders transformed the Tanganyika African Association TAA into TANU Party, the Tanganyika African National Union. These 17 leaders, founders, who were the visionaries behind TANU and the liberation of our country, Tanganyika at that time, included Kitwana, Kisunguta Gabara, John Rupia, Japhet Nkura Kirilo, Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, the founding father of the nation, who at that time was a teacher at St. Francis College, which later became Pugu Secondary School that we know of today. But was also Germano Pacha, Abubakari Ilanga, Joseph Kimalando, Dosa Aziz, Tewa Said Tewa, Constantine Oswald Milinga, Lamek Bugohe. There was also Patrick Kunambi, but also there was Joseph Bantu, who was a close friend of Mwalimu Nyerere. But also there was Ali Sykes, the relative of Abdul Wahid Sykes. But also there was Saddam Abdul Kandoro. But along these 17 visionaries of TANU political party, there were also other women who played a very important role in the liberation of our country. One of them was Bibi Titi Muhammad, but also was Binti Matola, who actually mobilized markets, communities, and homes across the country and the nation forward. There is even this famous saying that Binti Matola had said that Tanganyika, told Mwalimu Nyerere that Tanganyika needs independence now. So we see that these women also played a role in the liberation of our nation. But under these leaders, TANU grew into a powerful political force that articulated the vision of independence for our country, the vision of unity and mass participation in order to bring liberation of the country, Tanzania. On the eve of independence, the British colonial authorities lowered the Union Jack while the crowd sang God Save the Queen. But at the midnight of the 9th of December 1961, the lights came back on and the new flag of Tanganyika was raised and crowds sang Mungu Ibariki Afrika, which symbolized a new era of dignity, hope, and sovereignty for Tanzania mainland. This historic moment was actually led by the founding father of the nation, Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, the founding father of our country, whose integrity and commitment made it possible for our country to be liberated. Let me not finish all this information. To dive deep on our today's topic, at the studio, we are joined by two remarkable voices in our country. We are actually joined with Joseph Mwamunyange, who is a media consultant, but also a farmer, a senior journalist. It's really an honor to have you. Retired senior journalist. Retired but not tired. We're truly happy to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
But we're also having at the studio Reeves Ngalemwa, who is a political and a development analyst. It's an honor to have you on the program today.
Thank you, Caroline.
The guests of today were famous guests in the program that were before, the program of This Week in Perspective that was done by Mzee Adam Simbe. What an honor to have you on the program today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for remembering us. We thought we had forgotten about us.
Of course, we remember about you. Now let's start with Joseph Mwamunyange. Can you tell us how was the situation before now, the liberation of Tanzania? Give us the history. A young person might be watching the program, but they do not know the history.
Let me give him the honor to do that.
Okay, welcome, Reeves.
You know, the honor was given based on seniority. You were much senior than myself.
I want to see if you follow the history of the country. I'll give you marks.
Okay. Caroline, thank you very much. The Tanzania's independence on the 9th of December 1961 was a monumental period, so to speak. But people should take into consideration, take cognizance that this struggle didn't, just come so closely like that. It started a long way. I don't know if it is still in the syllabus, but we had what we call Vita ya Majimaji.
The Majimaji War.
The Majimaji War. We would prefer to call it Majimaji Revolutionary War because, the colonial master called it the Majimaji Rebellion War. Yes. How do you become a rebel in your own country? So that was Majimaji Revolutionary War. I would say Majimaji was among the earliest significant struggle memories, I would say, of seeking for independence. And Majimaji was a model, so to speak, in most African countries, as they were, planning or preparing to overthrow the colonial masters. So it started a long way. It started even long before Mwalimu Nyerere was brought into this world. Then after Majimaji, the struggle continued until when I would say, the true sons of Africa, like the Mwalimu Nyerere, the Kwame Nkrumahs, the Mugabes, you name it, came into existence. Now, as briefed in your preamble, and thank you very much for that, because you have saved us, I would say, of time. You have narrated a lot of what it takes to kind of present the history, the liberation history of Tanzania, of Tanganyika then. In 1994, yes, that was also a monumental and pivotal moment. When
64.
Before 64, I'm talking about TANU, the birth of TANU. 1954 was monumental because that is when we had the TANU, which evolved from TAA, yes, as you narrated. And from 1954, a few years later, in the late 50s, in 1958, we had elections, which were commonly known as tripartite voting system, where you had to vote for a Muzungu, the white man, for an Indian, and an African. The process or the preparation for that kind of election, and that model of election was imposed by the colonial master, remember, and it kind of made our freedom fighters split, and they had different dimension and the vision of what is supposed to be happening. And that contributed, or issues escalated to a point where some of them had to leave TANU, and there was also a birth of another political party, the African National Congress. Yes. Not that one of ANC of South Africa. This is our own. Yes. There was an African National Congress here in Tanzania. And, that party, their philosophies were, and ideologies were rather extreme, because they were also fostering for expulsion of all the other colors in the country. But anyway, overall, victory after the elections that TAN won overwhelming, I would say, majority, and they were able now to take part in some processes of like legislation, etc. But then a few years later, then we got the independence. But anyway, there is another monumental event that took place at the UN headquarters. They had, there was a declaration in 1960 of actually aiming at, granting independences to these colonial countries and their people. So after that declaration in 1960, and then in 1961 we had that independence. Then followed by the Republic in 1962, where Mwalimu became the president, because when we got independence, he was a prime minister, you see. Now, after we got the independence, a few years, then we had Zanzibar revolutionary.
Now, we'll get to that. Thank you so much for the history that you have narrated. Now let's hear from you the history that you recall.
That's why I gave him that, the floor, because when we were discussing before we got here, I thought he was in a better position to just talk about that. And in your preamble, you talked about the history of our country. You narrated it very well. It was very well put. But like he was saying, after independence, it's not like it was smooth sailing. There was a mutiny, you remember?
Yeah.
There was a mutiny. There was a mutiny.
Yeah,
some soldiers felt that, these politicians were... So we had to seek for outside intervention. It wasn't just smooth sailing. Okay, like you said in your preamble, it's not that everybody had the same idea of where they wanted to go after independence. There are different opinions. Even Mwalimu differed with Muhammad Titi Mohamed, they differed. He came to differ with, years later, he came to differ with Kambona, who was one of the best brains we had. But overall, our independence wasn't very bloody like other countries, And like, we had Nyerere here, then we had, we had Kaunda, we had the Nkrumahs of this world that were advocating for one Africa, But there are different ways of getting at that. But our independence, marked a pivotal era in the region as well, because the geo position of Tanzania, plays a very big part. That's why you see when you go to south, you have Zambia. Their interest in Tanzania is not just political, but even economical. So our independence, marked a pivotal area even in them getting independence 3 years later. In 1964, they got their independence in October, on the same day that they celebrate, it's a UN Day or something like that, So we played a role in, bringing about independence to other countries, because Nyerere wasn't satisfied that we are free, then others are not free. Yes. That's why we hosted the liberation movement here. We were bombed and the like. I'm trying to move away from exactly, but then move into what happened after independence.
Thank you.
We never sat down that we are independent now. No, Nyerere said, no, the rest of Africa should be free.
Yes.
And he had like-minded people like the Mzorewas, the Nkomos, the one who was bombed, Mondolane, these guys. These are personalities that were interested in Pan-Africanism. And, and Nyerere was a truly Pan-Africanist, He never just wanted Tanzania to be free. He wanted all of Africa to be free. Even in Kenya, he played a part in Kenya's independence, Nyerere, So our independence, as we mark our independence, or 64 years of independence, it's not just about Tanzania or Tanganyika. It's about how we played a role in the liberation of the region. We played a role. Some of individuals even had to lose their lives, in the frontline states, what they called the countries that were fighting apartheid in South Africa.
Yes.
and the unilateral declaration of independence in northern Rhodesia by Ian Smith, you know, which even gave birth to the TAZARA.
Okay, thank you so much for that explanation. With what you just explained, the important role that Mwalimu played in the liberation of not just Tanzania but other African nations, 60 years later, not just for Tanzania, for other African nations. Remember at that time there was the formation of the EAC, African Union, all with the aim of uniting the continent. Now 64 years later, is Africa united? Are we still playing that role as the continent? Because we are seeing countries that are having wars, conflicts with each other, and are going out of the continent to resolve these issues. Countries like Congo, Rwanda, and other African countries. Is it that the Africa of today, we are not able to solve our own problems? We have forgotten the roots and the role that the founding fathers of the African nations played?
Caroline, yeah, we are united, but not to a level where we really want to be. We have institutions. Those stand as evidence that Africa is one, that we have African Union now, which evolved from Organization of African Union. You see? And I think that was 2018 when we launched what we call African Free Trade Areas, AFCT, whatever, that long abbreviated there.
Free Trade Continental
Yes, yes. Now, we have that, but you see, we were probably not able to put down strategic implementation mechanisms. So Africa still has challenges. Our union, that we would wish to call it a complete Pan-Africanist kind of a continent. We are still working towards a complete Pan-Africanism. But what are the constraints, probably? What are the issues actually hampering the speed progress towards a fully or a complete Pan-Africanism? I think when we were granted independences, our colonial masters were probably even clever than ourselves. They see there was no need to continue colonizing these people and fighting with them every now and then, sometimes using, you know, military means. I mean, you cannot colonize people that way, because the cost of maintaining a colony will be much higher than what you gain. So, you know, granting of independence, you would say yes, much as we were ready for independence, but also it coincided with their intention that it's better that we leave these people alone, you know, using their flags, but actually not completely alone economically. So they found ways of exploiting us, because we continue to export raw produce, agricultural produce, to their countries, cotton, coffee, you know, sisal, etc. And the exports were valued at very low prices, but the imports now, which were to manage our lives, to run our lives, like medicines, textiles, and everything, you know, from the same agricultural produce they took, then they would go finalize them into I'll say usable, you know, utilities, and then they come back at a very high cost. That way, that is the reason why we are not even developing fast. Partly. Second, partly. But second, exactly, partly. But second, also, they knew from the voices of Kwame Nkrumah, Nyerere, and the rest, that these people are vying for an integrated continent, even if not as a federal, you know, nation or whatever, but they should have some they envisage to have economic ties, you know, movements of people and commodities, free trade area, as it was declared in 2018. Now, if this would happen that fast, they would suffer a lot economically because their industries depended a lot on raw materials from Africa. Their employment, for example, their youth, their Gen Z of that time, depended very much on their fast growth in industrializing their countries, and the industrialization based mainly on produce from Africa. Now, if these guys want to integrate their continent and they do business amongst themselves, add value to the agricultural produce, this means we'll have nothing.
Yes.
Now, they always found ways to interfere with that. So I would now come back to your question. We're not fully integrated, fully united as was envisaged during Mwalimu Nyerere's and Kwame Nkrumah. We are not fully. We have challenges to tackle, and maybe, if you'll allow me some latitude of time, I will propose measures on how we can overcome the kind of.
We'll get back to that. There's something you want to say? Yes.
I agree with him mostly, but I have a different perspective on why Africa is not united, not doing business, you know. There's so many things, so many people have spoken, like Patrice Lumumba, you know, the Lumwengus of this world. Africa, let's be honest with ourselves. Africa is not just the Mzungus who are a problem. We are a problem. Our political leadership, I'm not talking about the political leadership in Tanzania, I'm talking about the
Across
political
Africa.
leadership in Africa,
The whole
generally.
continent.
They are very selfish. They haven't tackled corruption as it should be. Because, Caroline, if I should tell you, if you want to develop, you have to tackle corruption. With corruption, you'll just be, you know, you'll be singing the same song. Because, you know, corruption takes a lot of incentives that would have gone to people that are innovative. African leaders, most of them, if you look at the history, some of them even had money stashed away in Switzerland. Money that should have gone to the common man in Bukoba, in Kela, in Sumbawanga, you know? You know, I'm just taking an example of like Mobutu, you know? So our problems are not entirely on
External.
external. It's internal. We haven't had the temerity or the courage to say, let's take the bull by the horns.
But I have a question. It's been 64 years later. Why is this? Why can't we get over that?
You know,
Is it that we don't know? Is it that the leaders don't
the
know that
thing
they're
is-
not patriots enough?
Okay, okay, you're very right. Why can't we get over it? How do we get our leaders? How do we select them? You know, if you look at the Chinese, they don't have this democracy. They select people after they've done well. You know, those provinces in China, they compete. If you are the regional commissioner for Mbeya, and there's a regional commissioner for Njombe, they compete. When you compete, you reach a certain level, you are transferred to another region. It's competence-based.
Or to the next
Not-
higher level.
Not cadre-based. Most problems in Africa, including Tanzania, cadreism is still there. You know, if you are good, you should be given a position because you are good, not because you belong to my tribe or you
Or
were
my
meant to
party.
go together.
Or you know
That's
someone.
why Africa is not moving forward, including Tanzania. You know, the other day our president was talking about nepotism. She talked about it. I saw the clip. You know, don't just put somebody there because they are your relatives. Let them be competent. This is a big problem. It's not small in Africa. So unless our leaders stop being selfish, they tap corruption. You remember Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore, what he did when he came into power. You know, he had that iron fist. Corruption. A businessman takes you for a tour in Ngere, whatever. You come back, Caroline, you're fired. Why? That was corruption. Why did he take you there? Unless corruption is tackled at the highest level, we'll just be mark timing, as they say in the army. Corruption is eating us.
Yeah. Can
they
I
found-
ask something with what you just said? Since you are a you're a retired senior journalist, do you think there is a need to have a pan-Africanist African media that will be telling these things? And do we have that?
There is an issue, it's called, I can't remember the name. I've even participated in some of their meetings. It's there. But
Is it doing its work?
do we have people that could listen and implement some of the things? You know, we are a people that, you know, like, one thing I agree with him. What the colonialists did is they indoctrinated us into hating ourselves, thinking that we can't do it. Like the late Dr. Miles Monroe said, you know, somebody comes, they give you independence, then they haven't showed you how to turn the leaves into tea bags. Then when you fail to do that, they come, they say, no, we left you with this, why didn't you do it? But they never showed you how to do it. The late Dr. Miles Monroe, he blames the colonialists for not doing where we were supposed to be. But I personally think our African politicians contribute a lot to where we are because they are not serious about what they do. And one other thing is, you have a country. There is this program that, you know, we should move from 2020 to 2030. These are the programs. And you have an election. Somebody comes in, everything is abandoned, you start afresh. You never get anywhere. Let's be serious with what we start. If we say we should do this by this time and this time, let's do it.
Thank you so much. Say what you want to say.
It's getting interesting. You see, why is it that after 60 years of independence, most African countries have not, you know, come out of all these challenges we are, you know, talking about every day? Corruptions, nepotism, laziness, lack of focus, change of programs after every term of presidential term. You see, it's the design. Until we Africans agree together that we should get over what was designed for us, there's already a roadmap. And they wanted us to follow after our independences. And it seems like we are following. Remember those coups, they were frequent after independence. Because what was happening? You get your independence. You elect your leaders. If those leaders don't dance to their tune, if they don't, they'll be overthrown. And how are they overthrown? They don't come from those countries to overthrow your leader. They make sure that you people are dissatisfied with what he is doing, and you will overthrow him or her. Now, a lot of those coups were initiated by our former colonial masters. Why? Because whatever was in the plan was supposed to happen as drawn. Now, it has been so many years. Now I agree with you. Partly we are to blame. Because for those who have gone to school even a little, and the most of our leaders have gone to school enough in Africa, even during those times. Most of those who were ascending to power went to school adequately. Now, were they not able to kind of detect this plot? They were for sure. But now, here comes being selfish, here comes, you know, because when those people praise you, and you don't want to lose that kind of being seen as a senior brother, being seen as, you know, amongst African leaders, some presidents enjoyed that. Now, they tell you want to partner with you in mining, in agriculture, and everything, you know, but, you know, only for us to partner with you. There are discussions you people now, you know, have started, you know, putting on the table as agenda. We don't prefer those ones. So you implement developmental programs with a colonial master, sometimes even without consulting your neighbors, because you think you are the most favored, you think you are the most liked, you know, of the presidents in Africa. That was problem number one. Problem number two is that when you talk of Pan-Africanism, I tell you, even today, if this thing comes into effect, the Western powers, the big economic powers, will have problems, sustaining their development. Now, this is fought squarely, left, right, and center. The idea of Pan-Africanism is fought so strongly. As a result, you have leaders in the most African countries who are not committed to the development of their own people, because those leaders are under influence of those colonial masters. Now, the thing is, to get out of it, I agree with you. Corruption. When we say we want to fight corruption, we have to mean it. And this should not be the responsibility of only those occupying offices at the presidential palaces. It should be the responsibility of everyone. Look here in Tanzania. When you become a leader, you take oath, you fill those forms, you enlist your properties. But tell me, some other ordinary civil servants who are at key sections or departments or services which may attract corruption, those are not signed into anything. They don't take any oath. Now, corruption fighting should not only be limited to our political leaders.
Yes.
Corruption should be spread across all civil servants to start with. Even the private sector, you're very right. That way, we can at least make some progress. But again, maybe to finish,
Yes.
we have institutions. Now, to help us fight corruption, we have established legal institutions. We have given them some legal mandate. But the way I see, probably, the laws that enacted those institutions might be either outdated or inappropriate. We may have to review and probably enact new laws accordingly. But also the staff, the people put in those offices, like we have the public leaders secretariat, those officials there at the secretariat, those officials there, how we get them, how were they vetted, how committed they are, how patriotic are they? We should look into that one, because unless you have that kind of a person who may sacrifice his own self for the country, otherwise, a lot of other influences will affect him.
Yes.
Political and hierarchical interferences, but sometimes himself thinking, well, this is the position I have, I'm closer to these leaders, I should not mistreat them because there are some rewards coming back, then we may not be able to fight corruption.
Indeed, we may not be able to fight corruption. TVC1 viewers, if you are tuning on, the program on air is focused on this week, and today we're discussing about the 64 years of Tanzania mainland's independence, where we came from, where are we, and where are we headed. And we're here with Joseph Mwamunyange as well as with Reeves Ngalemwa, and of course the program is hot here at the studio. Now let me go back to Joseph. Let's talk back about the 64 years of independence. Now, can you tell us what major achievements has the country made since the 64 years have passed? What is it that we have actually made that when we look at it, we're like, of course, we've made an achievement as the nation?
The question looks somewhat simple, but it's a very tricky question, When you say achievements, there's so many areas, after independence that were lacking. Like you said, there was, we wanted to tackle things to do with health, education, shelter. Where are we now? We've made some progress. But if you compare to people that were at the same GDP in 1961, like I think it's Korea, I don't know which one, it's south of North Korea, they have surpassed, they've gone beyond us. Some countries like Malaysia, we have done something, but we need to do more. One area where we have done good and we would have done better is the education sector. We built more schools, more universities have come on board, but we've been struggling. We've been like groping in the dark. We haven't found the right mix for our education. people are coming on board, and you know, we see people being interviewed and say this education system is archaic. It shouldn't be used now, because the training, the education that was there was to train people to go and work, you know, find work. But we need to change. But nothing is changing. Even though we've made some progress there, we have more universities. But what we should be looking at is the quality. Are we having the right quality of the people that are being churned out of this? We've made headway in, you know, infrastructure. You know, like, I wouldn't want to mention each and every, but yeah, we made,
They are visible.
yeah, we are visible. You can see them. You know, there are times that we have taken one step forward and taken 3 steps backwards, but that's learning as well, because we've been independent for 64 years. It's not a short time. We would have done much better, much better. Even the studio here, TBC has changed. No, let's be honest with ourselves.
From when we used to be
Yeah, you know, from the time it used to be those days.
one camera, 2 cameras.
Yeah, you have Tanzania now. We have, you know, we have OBs countrywide. You know, these are improvements. You know, you go to sports. People now can watch sports events because they are being covered, you know. Because when people talk about development, they think it's just this infrastructure. Sports employs a lot of people.
Yes.
If you can improve a lot of stadia in that area, you know, build like more like the Kikwete that was built there, have that in every district. You know, you have children, you take them off the streets instead of going into drugs, because I've seen many people at Muhimbili there going through rehabilitation. Some of the developments, if you look at Muhimbili National Hospital now, it's not what it used to be. It has expanded. You know, there are so many departments there. We partnered with Apollo. We have a cardiac institute there, Jakaya Kikwete. People are coming in from neighboring countries to come and be treated. That's a development. You know, development, some of these developments, you can't see them. But I, for one, I go to these hospitals as a patient and, you know, look at
See how the services are.
when my own relatives, I take them there. So we have done something. But as for Muhimbili, I would have loved the expansion to continue, because I really support what they've done. You know, when they were establishing the Orthopedic Institute with Professor Maseru. I was there with him, with the Swiss woman. I even wrote a story for the East African that they would reduce the percentage of people being taken out by 5%. It has happened. This is a development. And they are developing more. They are building more. One thing maybe Muhimbili could do is develop the oncology department, let it become bigger. Because if I should tell you, cancer cases are on the increase, not only in Tanzania, worldwide. But the oncology department at Muhimbili is just so small, and the people are doing tremendous work. You know, I've been there as the patient, I've experienced it, so it's better to build it. You know, we have the BRT.
Yes.
The BRT, when Enrique Penelosa Londono came from Bogota, I was lucky enough, I was there. You know, he talked about the goodness of the BRT. Even though we had some problems, which, like I told you, politicians, the BRT started off very well, but interference of politics, you know, you saw people getting onto those buses via the window. But it's a very good concept, because it has the non-motorized transport system where you can come with a bicycle from Kimara to town, you know. We have hybrid buses that can use gas instead of petrol and diesel. You know, you should have open spaces for people. That's a BRT. But when you hear politicians, they start talking about the BRT routes being used for some time and people paying money. I said, are these politicians normal? Do they know what the BRT thing is? So there have been so many developments, you know, but we could have done more, you know.
Thank you so
We've-
much.
we've
We
built,
could have done,
yeah.
we could have done
more.
more. Yes, we could have done more.
With
but
less corruption.
with less corruption.
Yes.
But we cannot, we cannot say
We
that.
cannot belittle what we have done.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
we cannot
You know,
belittle
we
what we
cannot
have done.
belittle what we have
Indeed,
done.
we
Because
have done
we
a
have
lot.
even
I like-
leapfrogged some of the people that were ahead of us.
Yes,
You know.
I like that one.
Yes.
On the same, eh?
yeah.
First, we have a strong nation, Caroline. You see, from 1961 to 1985, that was a national or a nation-building phase, I would say. I've classified Tanzania in 3 phases. The first one was nation building and commitment to liberation of other African countries, therefore giving birth to all these other regional institutions like SADC, EAC, COMESA, etc. So that was phase 1. And it was difficult also to achieve everything in that one phase because economies are at stake. Liberating other countries also have some economic, contribution. It takes toll in your efforts to develop your country. That's one. And that's why the nation building, especially through Kiswahili, has given Tanzania a kind of stability that can absorb shocks. One of these shocks being the other one during the election day on the 29th. In another country, that one would have, would have escalated it to a level where you couldn't stop it. So we have a strong nation, number one, and it's our responsibility now to protect it. Number 2, looking at phase 2 from 1986 to say 2000 plus 2005 maybe, we saw the country opening up itself, integrating with the international institutions and the regional bodies, trying to ease whatever the grip that we used to feel, to ease and here we had people coming, private investments. Mzee Ruksa.
Yes.
It was also another monumental phase where we realized a lot of other positive things happening. Though our permanent enemies like corruption were also there, every phase. The current phase, I would say, started from 2005, probably up to now. We now see a major shift towards industrializing, though not adequately, but when you look at regions like coast regions, Dar es Salaam, you see that element of industrialization.
Especially in
yes,
Pwani.
but major infrastructures, as mentioned by Mamunyange, you have the Mwalimu Nyerere Dam, you have the SGR, etc. Electricity, every village in this country has power, though we understand not every family is connected to power. That's another approach. But we also have Tarura. They're trying to make all rural roads passable, you see, and there's a huge investment being invested there. So this phase, I would say, was the major infrastructure. Because now after you build all those networks, transportation and communication, now we have internet, somehow reliable, up to 5G. Now the modern world's business depends on connectivity. Of course, it also allows for other negative things to happen, like organization of Gen Z's uprising was possible because of the internet.
And how do we come about? We have internet now. How do we make sure that we utilize internet? Now the country
commercially.
Now the country has a Vision 2050.
Yes.
And we have a lot that the country wants to achieve by 2050 now, the Tanzania that we're heading to. We have internet, we have technology.
Yes.
How do we utilize this technology now to take our country forward?
That's okay. You want to take on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Technology. We shouldn't be afraid of technology. But there should be a caution to where we apply technology. A caution, not that we shouldn't apply it. In Sweden, I think even in the UK, they had started classes where they went very digital. Sweden has retracted that, you know, having somebody write on the board, people writing, it builds their skills. So technology, we need it. You know, we can't run away from artificial intelligence and what it brings on board. But we should have strong institutions that will not
Regulate, kind of.
yes, regulate, but not. What's a better word? Not to make these the technology not work in the country. You regulate, then you make it very difficult for people to operate. You just one thing, you're banned, you're stopped from doing this. But technology is very good. You know, even developing a country without this IT, internet, you know, like even in, what was this? In Nepal.
Nepal.
We were talking about what happens there.
Nepal,
It was the internet.
Madagascar.
But that was a bit negative and positive. You know, they use that. But how do we use internet and all this technology to develop our people, especially young?
Yes.
You know? Because like I was saying about education, you have this middle cadre that should be developed. You know why China has developed very fast? They never invested in the universities. They invested in things like VETA. What are we doing with this technology? Instead of having maybe many teachers or lecturers in these institutions, you could use technology. You know, even health. You know, somebody can operate on somebody in Mbeya when you have the right technology. Because if we don't invest in technology, we are doomed. Because the last time I was at Muimbili, I'll give an example of Muimbili because I'm just in love with the institution. It should be improved. There was this machine that had broken down, and the samples had to be taken to South Africa. I was very disappointed. I felt hurt. I said, even if it costs 20 million, this country doesn't have 20 million.
Indeed.
So technology, we should invest in technology. We shouldn't shy away from technology because it's the only thing that will move us forward. Look at this newsroom. I mean, this studio. Was it like this previously?
No.
They have invested. The country has invested in this. So technology, like you said, we need to invest in technology in order to move forward. But which technology do we need first? And do we train our people first? Because having infrastructure and the like, without investing in the human resource, you are doomed.
Thank you so much for that explanation. Now, let's talk about investing in humans. During the leadership of Mwalimu, he insisted on people being the center of development. Yes. And at that time, we can recall that Mwalimu had insisted on Ujamaa and self-reliance. And now, recently, we had President Samia emphasizing that we really need to rely on our own resources, to rely on our own people to take us through the Vision 2050. Are the Tanzanians really having the skills, really having the willingness to really do the different things that can take us forward? Shortly, yes, because we have no time.
No problem. Yes, in one way I would say yes, but we need to do a lot. As Mwamnyange pointed out in one of his remarks, that you look at education, Tanzania has gone very far compared to the time when we got our independence. We have universities, but the thing is, it's like you have a computer here, but you need a software to operate that computer. Yes. Now we have these schools. If you continue teaching the same thing that was taught in 1960, we'll have the problem because the world have moved so fast. The only thing that can remain unchanged is about our nationhood, patriotism, our history. These things must not be watered down. Just like Christians and Muslims teach kids since when they're very young. And then the faith is embedded and manifested in their lives. They're indoctrinated. As they grow with it. Wherever you go, if you're a Christian, you are a Christian. Wherever you go, if you're a Muslim, you are a Muslim. Now, it should be that wherever you go, if you are a Tanzanian, you should be a Tanzanian. You are ready and willing to die for the country, to protect the country, to stand in defense of your own country. That thing now has been degraded a little bit, because our generations will remember, you know, when we were running in the morning, the songs that we used to sing, the praises that made us who we are. Even if I'm not happy with what is happening, but I'll be the last one to, you know, pick a stone and throw at government property, for example. So we need to bring that one up, because if you don't have that, one, that feeling of patriotism, whatever you do one day is going to be destroyed in a second. You see? Now, education is the pillar of all this. In an advanced technology, in an advanced technological world like we're living now, we need to agree that technology solves a lot of things. For the young people, I tell you, most of these, I mean, say 7 or probably 6 out of 10 young people in Dar es Salaam, they make their livelihoods through internet. Yeah. They sell. There are supermarkets in the internet. There are showrooms in the internet. There's everything. The only language they can understand, well, you will find, you know, kind of rent a shop like this one, put your products there, but this shop will be seen by everyone having a handset. Yeah. So that one should be enhanced, that one should be protected, and our regulatory laws, when, for example, we have a problem like the one we used to have, we should find means of zeroing around, you know, getting the culprit when the systems are not shut down.
I'm being told that our time is running now.
Oh, God.
We need to let Joseph say something as well. What is your message to the Tanzanians? Let's go to this last question.
Last one.
Yes, what's your message to the Tanzanians, especially the young people that now we have the internet? There is the risk that we might not understand the value of our country, that some people might not, young people might not be patriot enough.
Yeah.
Because you guys were trained on that. What's your message to the young people? Shortly.
My message to the young people starts with the older ones. You know, we put the blame on the young generation, but the young generation came from us. Whatever problems you see with the young people stem from us, not imparting the right knowledge, not disciplining them the way it is supposed to be. We are bringing up zombies, people that can't even make their bed, you know. Don't blame them. Blame yourself. If we don't get back to who we are as Africans, let's not be modern. You know, the Indians are very conservative, and they've developed a lot. Why? Because they've stuck to their traditional values. Let's go back. Discipline these kids when they're supposed to be disciplined. We shouldn't listen to the Western world. No, we are Africans, first and foremost. So when people blame this young generation, I tend to take a different view, because these people, if they are destroyed, it's us that are doing that. So what we should do is go back to the drawing board. What is it that we are not listening to? You know, we think we know what they want. No, 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 no. Listen to them. Don't talk at them. Listen to them. What do they want?
Yes.
Talk to them as friends. You know, they will tell you. It's just like your own child. If you, Carol, you're my daughter, and you look, you know, miserable. Carol, what's happening at school? Tell me, I'm your father. You know, when I'm friendly, but I don't say, if you don't tell me, I'll beat you. No, 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 no. The Gen Z problem. People are looking at the Gen Z with, you know,
as if they're aliens.
You know, like they're enemies, and they're trying to simplify everything. It might backfire. I remember the ILO is right now, Mr. Ali Ibrahim. You know, he was here. He even helped build the offices here, ILO offices. There was a report that they did that the youth in Tanzania, those that are coming out of tertiary and higher education, it was a ticking time bomb. It's still a ticking time bomb. You know, how do we handle these people? how we handle them matters a lot where we're going forward.
Yes.
Because these are going to help us if we handle them properly. Not talk at them, but talk to them nicely. Understand what they want. This is their country as well. Like he says, even at Zaya, if we could make them understand that this is the only Tanzania they have, there is no other Tanzania,
Indeed.
that would be very good.
Thank you so much. This is the only Tanzania we have. Just 1 second.
Yes,
Because
yes.
time is
I would say those problems that have been cited most of the times, like new colonialism, now we have this economic, and we have competitions here and there within the region and even outside. We should not ignore them. We should always put them on the table and see what we can do. But to make it better for us, I think let us turn our potentials into productivity. Our peace and tranquility, we should turn it into productivity. Our resources, we should turn them into serious value addition industries, especially on our agro produce, but our human resources.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Responsible upbringing and the formulation of responsible institutions like leaders, public leaders, and ethics committee. We should overhaul it and improve for the better.
Thank you so much. I'm being told we're out of time. Thank you so much, Joseph Mwamunyange, for your time. And thank you so much, Reeves Ngalemwa, for your time and for all the explanations that you have provided on our program today. TVC1 viewers, the program on air was focused on this week, and today we discussed the 64 years of Tanzania mainland's independence, where we came from, where are we at, and where are we headed to. And here on the program, emphasis has been put that Africa is one, and we are Africans. We need to go back to the drawing board to remember where we came from, to understand where we are going. Indeed, in Tanzania, there are much achievements, as my sources have explained, that the country has made, but we have a lot to improve as well, so that we can reach to the Tanzania that we need and we target to achieve. One of them is that we have a female president, Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, and we've seen the improvement of female into the politics world. Leading the program today, I was your host, Caroline Maleo. Until next time, bye-bye.